welcome to BIREN'S Academy. My name is Mohan. Today in this session we are going to discuss the Elizabethan drama and the Jacobean drama. So we are going to compare and contrast the dramas of two different periods, the Elizabethan period and the Jacobean period. So in order to understand the Elizabethan drama and the Jacobean drama, we need to be aware about both the names, the Elizabethan and the Jacobean. So as all of you might have already got some idea that the Elizabethan has come from the word Elizabeth the first, and the Jacobean has come from the word James the First. Both were the two rulers in England. Elizabeth reigned in England from 1558 to 1603, and James the First reigned in England from 1603 to 1625. So this was the ruling period of Elizabeth the First and James the First. So who was Elizabeth the First and who was James the First? We need to understand that. So in order to understand Elizabeth the First for the first time, we need to understand the Tudor dynasty. What is Tudor dynasty and how it started in England? जेमती कि आम समस्ते देखीचे जे आम इंडिया रे मध्य विभिन्न डायनेस्टीज माने सब एस्टाब्लिश होईछि, जेमती कि मुगल संप्रदाय। ठीक से ही बोलिए ट्यूडर डायनेस्टी इज आल्सो a family of rulers who ruled in England for a period of 118 years. So how it started in England and how it ended in England we are going to discuss today. माने ट्यूडर डायनेस्टी रो प्रथम राजा किए थिले एवं शेष राजा किंबा रानी किए थिले. We are going to discuss that in this session today. So Henry VII was the first king or the first Tudor king in England. Henry VII reigned in England from 1485 to 1509 for a period of 24 years. 24 वर्ष काल पर्यंत हेनरी द सेवेंथ इंग्लैंड रे 1485 रु 1509 ख्रीष्टाब्द पर्यंत से इंग्लैंड रो राजा हिसाब रे शासन करथिले. So how he became the king? Henry VII defeated Richard III, who was the leader of the House of York, in the War of Roses and became the king of England. So War of Roses ta kono? War of Roses is a series of civil wars that was fought for 30 years in England, and in the last civil war Henry VII defeated Richard III and became the king of England. And this is how the Tudor dynasty began in England, and Henry VII was the first Tudor king in England. This is very often asked in different competitive examinations as an objective question. There would be a lot of options like Henry VII, Henry VIII, or the option किसी भी देथिबे, एवं the question would be who was the first Tudor king or Tudor monarch in England. So the right answer would be Henry VII. So after Henry VII, when Henry VII died in 1509, after the death of Henry VII, his son Henry VIII became the king of England. Henry VIII became the successor of Henry VII. So let's know about Henry VIII. Then Henry VIII was a very famous Tudor king. He was a very famous Tudor king because he brought some Protestant Reformation in England, in the Church of England. Protestant Reformation ta kono I'll explain briefly in this session. Before that, let's have some more additional idea about Henry VIII. So Henry VIII married 6 times. before I would go on to this topic, let me tell you that these activities, this kind of activities were not allowed, were illegal during that period. माने द्वितीय विवाह करिवा मध्य सेही समय रे माने चर्च अनुमति देउ नथिला. So how Henry the 8th married for the 6th times? Let's know it first. So Henry the 8th married Catherine of Aragon for the first time, as his first wife was Catherine of Aragon. Ebong Mary the First took birth from Catherine of Aragon and Henry the 8th. But Henry the 8th was expecting a baby boy who would be succeeding him after him in the throne of England. So हेनरी द 8th कर गोटे स्वप्न थिला जे तांकर गोटे पुओ जन्म हेबो जे कि तांकर परे इंग्लैंड रो राजा हेबो. किंतु कैथरीन ऑफ आर्गन कुठू मेरी द फर्स्ट जन्म हेले. सो ही वाज very much depressed and he decided to go for the second marriage. And to go for the second marriage he needed a permission from Pope of the church, as Pope at that time Roman Catholicism was in practice. Roman Catholic churches were there and Pope was the supreme governor, supreme leader of the church. So Henry the 8th approached the Pope of the Roman Catholicism to get permission to marry to divorce Catherine of Aragon and to go for the second marriage. But Pope denied the proposal of Henry the 8th to divorce Catherine of Aragon and to go for the second marriage. So Henry the 8th had a dream of having a baby boy. So what he did, he made a lot of changes. As he was the king of England, he made a lot of changes in the law in the parliament. And according to the new law, Pope would not be the supreme governor of the church anymore. Rather, the king would be the supreme leader of the church. So नुआ आईन हिसाब रे पोप चर्च गुड़ाक माने सुप्रीम लीडर ही रही. रेदर जे किंग रहिबो से ही सब चर्च गुड़ाक लीडर ही रहिबो, पार्लियामेंट लीडर ही रहिबे. सो नाउ he was free to do whatever he wanted to do. So he went for the second marriage and he married Anne Boleyn. And Anne Boleyn gave birth to Elizabeth I. But before that, let me tell you, Catherine of Aragon, as he divorced Catherine of Aragon and the marriage was annulled, so Mary the First was declared as an illegitimate child. Same thing happened with Elizabeth I. Anne Boleyn gave birth to a baby girl whose name was Elizabeth I, and again Henry the 8th was depressed. So by spreading the rumor that Anne Boleyn is practicing witchcraft, Henry the 8th executed Anne Boleyn. ताकू मृत्यु दंडादेश दिया गला Anne Boleyn को, एवं एलिजाबेथ द फर्स्ट को मध्य इलेजिटिमेट चाइल्ड बोलिकरी डिक्लेयर कर दिया गला. Okay, after that Henry the 8th again married Jane Seymour, and from Jane Seymour, Edward VI, a baby boy, took birth. And finally Henry the 8th was happy, but he did not stop there. This was a list of 3 marriages. He married again 3 more. He married for the 3 more times after marrying Jane Seymour and after having a baby boy. And he died on 28th January 1547. After the death of Henry the 8th, there were no successor who would succeed Henry the 8th, because Edward the 6th was the only son of Henry the 8th, and Mary the First and Elizabeth the First were already declared illegitimate children. Mary the First was 31 years old at that time, and Elizabeth the First was 17 to 18 years old at that time. So both of them could not be the successor of Henry the 8th. So the last option was Edward the Sixth, but the problem at that time was that Edward the Sixth was only 9 years old when Henry the Eighth died. Still, as there were no other options and as there were no other successor, so Edward the Sixth was declared as the King of England when he was only 9 years of old. And due to his ill health, he died on 6th July 1553 at a very early age. At the age of just 15 years of old, he died. But before his death, he had already declared who would be his successor. एवं से कहा निज सक्सेसर बोली कि प्रचार करदेले से तांकर भौणी दुईटा जाक भौणी थिले गोटे थिला मेरी द फर्स्ट गोटे थिले एलिजाबेथ द फर्स्ट किंतु से दुही को से निजर सक्सेसर न भाविकी सी डिक्लेयर सॉरी ही एडवर्ड द सिक्स डिक्लेयर्ड लेडी जेन ग्रे तांकर गोटे कजिन तांकु से तांकर सक्सेसर बोलिकी सबुआड़े प्रचार करदेले. There was a reason behind it. What was the reason? The reason was that Lady Jane was the eldest sister. So if Edward the Sixth is going to would go for one of his own sisters, then he has to choose Mary the First, and Mary the First was a practitioner of Roman Catholicism. She used to practice Roman Catholicism. तो एडवर्ड द सिक्स को गोटे डर थिला जे तांकर बापा जो प्रोटेस्टेंट रिफॉर्मेशन आनी थिले चर्च गुड़ाक जदि मेरी द फर्स्ट इंग्लैंड राणी इंग्लैंड रूलर हिसाब से जदि आसुचंदी तो से पुणी थरे से रोमान कैथोलिसिज्म प्रैक्टिस को आनिबे इंग्लैंड रे. सो सेइथिपाई से लेडी जेन ग्रे जे कि गोटे प्रोटेस्टेंट बिलीवर थिले तांकु तांकर हेयर हिसाब रे प्रचार करदेले. किंतु by the ill practice of Mary the First, Lady Jane Grey and her husband were beheaded and executed just 9 days after she went for the throne. माने केवल मात्र 9 दिन परे तांकु मेरी द जेन एवं तांकर गोटे सेट आर्मी द्वारा लेडी जेन ग्रे एवं तांकर हस्बैंड को मारी दिया गला. So next, moving on to the next Tudor ruler, who is Mary the First. So after killing Lady Jane Grey and her husband, Mary the First declared herself as the new ruler of England. And as I have already told you that Mary the First was a staunch believer of Roman Catholicism. So she brought back all the rules and regulations that was before Henry the Eighth in England. Like कौन थिला rule that Pope would be the supreme governor, supreme leader of the church, and that rule was brought back again, and once again Pope became the supreme governor of the church. And that's not enough. Mary also killed so many people who followed Protestantism in England. माने जो माने Protestantism को follow करुथिले तांकु Mary the First behead करि दउथिले, execute करि दउथिले. And that is the reason why she was often addressed as Bloody Mary. तांकु Bloody Mary बोली करी माने बहु बार address करा होतला. This is also a question which is asked very often, that which Tudor ruler is addressed as Bloody Mary. So the answer would be Mary the First. And Mary the First died on 17 November 1558. And now we come to our point of discussion, that is Elizabeth the First. So among all the Tudor rulers, Elizabeth the First was the most famous Tudor ruler. And there are reasons. The reasons are, she was a staunch follower of Protestantism, as like her father Henry the Eighth and her brother Edward the Sixth. She used to follow Protestantism in England, and whatever the restoration of the laws set by her father, she once again restored all those laws of church. Like Henry the Eighth गोटे रूल आनी थिले जो कि किंग ही चर्च रो सब माने सर्वे सर्वा होकर रे किंतु किंग रो डेथ पर एडवर्ड द सिक्स्थ लेडी जेन ग्रे को तांकर सक्सेसर हिसाब से घोषणा कले एवं मेरी द फर्स्ट लेडी जेन ग्रे को माने तांकर हत्या करिवा परे मेरी द फर्स्ट कौन कले से सब रूल को पुणी चेंज करदे जोठी कि पोप पुणी थे चर्च रो रूलर होकर रहिले एवं से रूल को पुणी थे जोटा कि हेनरी द फर्स्ट डिक्लेयर करते से रूल को पुणी थे एलिजाबेथ द फर्स्ट चर्च को आनिले जार द्वारा कि डिक्लेयर करागला दैट हेनरी द किंग और द रूलर ऑफ इंग्लैंड वुड बी द सुप्रीम गवर्नर ऑफ द चर्च. 1 second, this was already declared, which was changed, and again it is changed now. So no need to be confused about it. Just try to understand it in a very simple way. Don't take it like a very rocket science. So in the under the reign of Elizabeth I, England was economically and politically stable and settled. तांकर कार्यकाल रे इंग्लैंड रो इकोनॉमी एवं पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशंस बहुत स्टेबल थिला किंतु काइना तांकर पूर्वरु बहुत सारा युद्ध होउतला बहुत सारा कन्फ्यूजन्स रहउतला बहुत सारा प्रॉब्लम्स माने रहउतला किंतु एलिजाबेथ द फर्स्ट तांकर कार्यकाल समय रे इंग्लैंड रो इकोनॉमी एवं पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन बहुत स्टेबल एवं बहुत सेटल्ड हिकरी थिला. and also colonization started in this era. आम समस्ते जानिछु that England colonized Britain colonized all over the world, almost all over the world, and that actually started in the under the reign of Elizabeth the First. Elizabeth the First को कार्यकाल रे ही colonization टा start हेतिला. colonization कहले कोन जेमति कि the Britishers came to India and they started ruling over India like that. They went to all different other different nations in the world and they started ruling over those nations also. That is known as colonization, means setting the rules and regulations and empires of British empires in other nations is known as colonization. It is actually a separate topic. We will discuss it in another session. Today in this session, just to have some idea, I just told it in briefly. So let's now understand the literature of the Elizabethan period. What was the literature of the Elizabethan period and how was it? As there were social and political stability, the literature in this age flourished. So जेहेतु से समय रे कोन सोशल एवं पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी थिला माने किछि प्रकार कन्फ्यूजन नथिला तो समस्ते कोन कले लिटरेचर एवं आर्ट प्रति ध्यान देवार स्टार्ट कर देले. समस्ते माने बुक्स लिखिबा स्टार्ट कर देले, आर्ट प्रति बेसी माने इंटरेस्ट शो करिबा स्टार्ट कर देले. Queen herself took interest in the literary activities and praised the artist. क्वीन एलिजाबेथ द फर्स्ट भी बहुत इंटरेस्ट थिला आर्ट एवं आर्टिस्ट एवं लिटरेरी एक्टिविटीज मानक. ड्रामा फ्लोरिस्ट इन दिस पीरियड. फेमस लिटरेरी फिगर्स वेर विलियम शेक्सपियर, क्रिस्टोफर मार्लो, एडमंड स्पेंसर, सर फिलिप सिडनी एंड फ्रांसिस बेकन एटसेट्रा. सो यही एज रे इंग्लिश ड्रामा फ्लोरिश करदेला, इंग्लिश ड्रामाटा स्टार्ट होता एवं यही एज रो फेमस लिटरेरी फिगर्स जो मैंने लिखुले सबकि. सो फेमस लिटरेरी फिगर्स नाटा तुम आम समस्ते जानी जे प्लेराइट्स माने थिले विलियम शेक्सपियर, क्रिस्टोफर मार्लो भली फेमस प्लेराइट्स, एडमंड स्पेंसर एवं सर फिलिप सिडनी भली फेमस पोएट एवं फ्रांसिस बेकन भलिया फेमस प्रोज एवं एसे राइटर. The university wits had a great contribution and had a great impact on the literature of the Elizabethan period. So who were the literary university wits? University wits is a phrase used to name a group of late 16th century English playwrights and pamphleteers who were educated at the universities. Okay, so late 16th century रे जो मैंने यूनिवर्सिटी रो ग्रेजुएट हितले को यूनिवर्सिटी ऑक्सफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी एवं कैम्ब्रिज यूनिवर्सिटी रो ग्रेजुएट हितबा किछिटा प्लेराइट्स को यूनिवर्सिटी विट्स रो आख्या दिया जाइतला. सो को माने थिले से प्लेराइट्स माने द यूनिवर्सिटी विट्स इंक्लूड क्रिस्टोफर मार्लो, रॉबर्ट ग्रीन एंड थॉमस नाश जो माने कि कैम्ब्रिज यूनिवर्सिटी रो ग्रेजुएट हितले एंड टू मोर वेर थॉमस लॉज एंड जॉर्ज पिल जो माने कि ऑक्सफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी रो ग्रेजुएट हितले. यही 5 जन को छाड़ी आउ जड़े थिले जांकर ना कि थॉमस किड जे कि यूनिवर्सिटी रू ग्रेजुएट ही ना से केबे यूनिवर्सिटी भी जाई ना किंतु तांको भी यूनिवर्सिटी विट्स कर ग्रुप रे शामिल करा जाए जस्ट बाय लुकिंग एट हिज लिटरेरी स्किल एंड राइटिंग स्किल्स. Now here we comes to the main point of discussion, the differentiation and the compare and contrast of Elizabethan and Jacobean drama. So when both the periods are included, Elizabethan and Jacobean period, it spans from 1558 to 1625. जेमती कि मु आगरू ऑलरेडी कहि सारिछि जे एलिजाबेथ इंग्लैंड रो रानी हेले 1558 रे एंड रूल कले 1603 पर्यंत. जेम्स सेमती 1603 रे इंग्लैंड रो राजा हेले एवं 1625 पर्यंत इंग्लैंड रो राजा हिकी रहिले. सो दीटा जाक पीरियड को मिसै देले 1558 टू 1625. सो this Elizabethan and Jacobean drama refers to the vibrant theatrical productions that took place during the reigns of Queen Elizabeth I and King James I in England. So ए जो ड्रामा ए पीरियड कथा जो आम कहूचे एटा कौन होता बहुत सारा वाइब्रेंट थिएट्रिकल प्रोडक्शंस माने बहुत सारा प्लेज ड्रामा माने जहाँ सब प्रोड्यूस होता क्वीन एलिजाबेथ द फर्स्ट एवं जेम्स द फर्स्ट कार्यकाल समय सेटा को आम एलिजाबेथन ड्रामा एवं Jacobean drama बोली कहू. English theatres produced during this age with playwrights such as William Shakespeare, John Webster and Christopher Marlowe etc. So यही समय रे खास करके एलिजाबेथन पीरियड रे ही इंग्लिश थिएटर्स माने सब फ्लोरिश होता माने इंग्लैंड रे थिएटर्स माने सब फ्लोरिश माने बढ़ी बढ़ी चलीला एवं से माने who were the responsible figures in that the playwrights such as William Shakespeare, John Webster and Christopher Marlowe and many other playwrights were also there which whom we will discuss later on in this session. Elizabethan drama emerged during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I and is primarily associated with the works of William Shakespeare. So Elizabethan drama टा Queen Elizabeth I कर कार्यकाल रे फ्लोरिश करितला स्टार्ट हितला एवं Elizabethan drama रे बेसी करी विलियम शेक्सपियर कर लेखा बेसी करी अछि. English theatres were transformed. So जो जिते सारा theatres थिला English theatres Elizabethan drama समय एटा we are discussing about Elizabethan drama here. So during the in the Elizabethan period English theatres were transformed माने तांकु एडवांस करा जायतिला किंबा तांकु माने तारो expansion चलीतिला केमती बेसी audience how they will gather more audience in the theatres they were trying for that. And not only that, not only the expansion, they were also opening new theaters and new theaters such as very famous theaters like the Globe and the Rose were built. Okay, and the Globe एटा को मन रखिबा बहुत जरूरी the Globe because the Globe is associated with William Shakespeare. How? Shakespeare worked with Chamberlain's men, later known as King's men, who built the theatre the Globe in 1599. So William Shakespeare निजे the Globe theatre रे काम करिसंती कहा सहित मिसिकी Chamberlain's men जांको कि परे परे King's men बोली करी कहा जाउतला एवं the Globe theatre टा the Chamberlain's men को द्वारा तैयारी करा जाइतला in the year 1599. So एटा भी ऑब्जेक्टिव टाइप क्वेश्चंस रे बहुत very often it is asked, so keep it in your mind. So moving on to the next slide. One of the defining characteristics of Elizabethan drama was its diversity of genres and themes. Okay, माने विभिन्न प्रकार genres थाई genres माने here प्रकार. Okay, and themes विभिन्न themes गुड़ा भी थाई. Okay, कौन कौन सेटा थाइले which genres were there? Genres such as tragedy, comedy, history and romance all found a place on the Elizabethan stage. ता माने कोन कि Elizabethan stage रे गोटे प्रकार ड्रामा को ही प्ले करा जाउतला बोली माने नहीं सेते विभिन्न प्रकार ड्रामा सब प्ले करा जाउतला. को बोलिया ड्रामा ट्रेजेडी माने कोन दुखर किछि गोटे मेसेज आस्तुबो, कॉमेडी, हिस्ट्री एंड रोमांस कॉमेडी कहले कॉमेडी पुणी दुई प्रकार गोटे है कॉमेडी ऑफ मैनर एंड गोटे है कॉमेडी ऑफ ह्यूमर कॉमेडी ऑफ मैनर जहाँकि एलिजाबेथन ड्रामा रे देखा मिले और कॉमेडी ऑफ ह्यूमर जहाँकि जैकोबियन ड्रामा रे देखा मिले ओके सो ये सब ड्रामा विभिन्न प्रकार ड्रामा प्ले करने द्वारा दे वर ट्राइंग टू गैदर मोर ऑडियंस इनटू देयर थिएटर्स so let's discuss about some examples here so there were tragedies tragedy is also a genre of drama tragedies such as Shakespeare's Hamlet एटा तो समस्त निश्चित भावे पढ़ी and Hamlet is one of the most famous drama by William Shakespeare and the most famously because of the dramatic monologue to be or not to be by the protagonist Hamlet himself on the stage. Then another drama that is Macbeth, another play that is Macbeth. This is also very famous for its we can say complex ideas in it and complex events in it. Not only that, we also see the appearance of ghost in Hamlet. Okay, then Othello is also one of the most famous play by William Shakespeare, and in these plays, and not only in these plays, other plays of the Elizabethan drama, we see a similar kind of qualities, such as similar kind of qualities and perspectives, such as ambition of power, and the complexities of the human conditions. Complexities of the human conditions was dramatized there in the play of the Elizabethan drama, and which attracted a lot of audience towards it. Then moving on to the next genres, that is comedy. Comedies like A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is a comedy. The 12th Night is also a comedy, offered humorous and light-hearted portrayals of love, mistaken identities and societal conventions. So ए दीटा एक कॉमेडी जो कि माने ह्यूमरस एलिमेंट्स गुड़ा अच्छी ओके लाइट हार्टेड पोर्ट्रेल्स नॉट दैट सीरियस इट मीन्स ऑफ लव मिस्टेकन आइडेंटिटीज माने भूल बुझामणा जेमती होता है कि दी मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग्स एंड ऑल एंड सोसाइटल कन्वेन्शंस माने आम समाज रे चलुवा विभिन्न प्रकार कन्वेन्शंस नियम को सब ए दर्शा जाकि गोटे प्रकार कॉमेडी रूप दि जाइए ओके देन मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट जनरस दैट इज हिस्ट्री तो हिस्टोरिकल प्लेस गुड़ा भी थिला हिस्टोरिकल प्लेस माने कोन जोटा कि हिस्ट्री रे हिथिला ताकू माने बाय मेकिंग सम चेंजेस टू रिप्रेजेंट इट इज हिस्टोरिकल प्लेस जेमति कि रिचर्ड द थर्ड आम इन द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द सेशन वी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट रिचर्ड द थर्ड हु वाज डिफीटेड बाय हेनरी द सेवेंथ सो रिचर्ड द थर्ड कोन एटा गोटे हिस्ट्री एटा गोटे माने इमेजिनरी कैरेक्टर नो दिस इज ट्रू दिस इज बेस्ड ऑन द ट्रू इवेंट्स so Richard the Third is also a play, Henry the Fifth is also a play. So these plays were historical plays, it means what they were based on the real events that took place in the history. Okay, and by writing these plays of Richard the Third and Henry the Fifth, Shakespeare tried to show the political and moral implications during their time. Then another genre that is romance. When it comes to romance, there are plays like The Tempest, which is one of the most famous play by William Shakespeare, because this was the last play of William Shakespeare. All of you keep it in your mind. This is also very often asked in the different examinations, that which is considered to be the last play by William Shakespeare. So the answer would be The Tempest. Okay, so it combines different elements such as tragedy, comedy, fantasy to create magical and enchanting tales. Okay, এই প্লে রে द टेम्पेस्ट रे ए सब एलिमेंट्स गुड़ा अच्छी से ट्रेजेडी भी अच्छी ट्रेजेडी भी देखा मिल कमेडी भी देखा मिल मैजिकल एंड एनचांटिंग टेल्स गुड़ा सब माने आमे विभिन्न प्रकार कहानी से भितर देखा मिल प्लस रोमांस भी देखा मिल सो दिस वाज ए मिक्सचर ऑफ ऑल मूविंग ऑन apart from the above mentioned dramas Shakespeare's Romeo Juliet, Julius Caesar, King Lear were renowned for their poetic language, complex character, and exploration of universe. शेक्सपियर किछिटा प्ले तो आम ऊपर डिस्कस कला ता सहित आहरी भी बहुत सारा प्ले अच्छी जमती कि रोमियो जूलिएट, जूलियस सीजर, किंग लियर, जो कि पोएटिक लैंग्वेज यूज होती, कॉम्प्लेक्स कैरेक्टर्स सब यूज होती, एवं एक्सप्लोरेशन ऑफ यूनिवर्सल थीम्स माने कौन anyone can relate to the play माने एमती लागुत कि आई एम देयर इन द प्लेस ऑफ दैट कैरेक्टर जमती कि किंग लियर इज अ प्ले जोटी कि किंग लियर निजे निजको बहुत निजर प्रशंसा शुणा बहुत इच्छुक सब इच्छुक था एवं इट्स अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी जोटी कि निज प्रशंसा शुणवार इच्छा तांकू शेष को गोटे भिखारी करके रखिदिए. ओके, सो फ्रॉम अ किंग टू अ बेगर it is because of the vice that he always wanted to listen good about himself. Okay, so he distributed all his wealth among his two daughters, and the third and the smallest daughter got nothing, but the two daughters who got all the wealth of the king, they at the end of the play they ignored the king, and he ended up being a beggar towards the end of. So having discussed a lot about Elizabethan drama, let's now discuss about the Jacobean drama in brief. I'll not take much of your time. So the Jacobean era refers to the period of English history during the reign of King James the First, from 1603 to 1625, following the death of Queen Elizabeth the First. So Elizabeth the First को जितने death ही तला 1603 रे King James the First एलिजाबेथ इंग्लैंड राजा हिसाब से मनोनीत होते एवं से इंग्लैंड रे 1603 टू 1625 जाए शासन करी आसते. The Jacobean drama continued the theatrical condition established in the Elizabethan era but displayed its own distinct characteristics. Okay, so Jacobean drama कौन एलिजाबेथन ड्रामा रे जहाँ किसी सब एलिमेंट्स थिला से सब एलिमेंट्स को फॉलो करथिला से सब एलिमेंट्स को माने देखिकी शिखुथिले किंतु एवं यूज भी करथिले निज ड्रामा रे किंतु ता सहित से तांकर निजर ओन डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स सब यूज करथिले. डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स माने कण निजर निजे माने किछिटा ऐड करथिले सेथिरे which made the Jacobean drama different from the Elizabethan drama. The plays of this period often exhibited a darker tone, a focus on moral and psychological complexities, and an exploration of political and social issues. Okay, जोटा कि previously discussed Elizabethan drama रे नथिला. Okay, and there are few more elements which make Jacobean drama different from Elizabethan drama. कौन सेटा? We'll discuss that. One of the notable developments of Jacobean drama was the emergence of revenge tragedy. Okay, जोटा मु just previously कहूतली कि गोटे notable change कौन थिला, development कौन थिला कि Jacobean drama रे revenge tragedy टा start हितला. The revenge tragedy started in the Jacobean period, Jacobean age. जेमती कि गोटे example जदि देखिबा गले John Webster's The Duchess of Malfi. ओके, जॉन वेबस्टर को लेखा द डचेस ऑफ माल्फी गोटे एग्जांपल बेस्ट एग्जांपल ही पारे रिवेंज ट्रेजेडी रो. रिवेंज ट्रेजेडी माने कण एथरे हम जेमती बुझी पारुछे रिवेंज माने कण बदला नेबाटा, ट्रेजेडी माने दुखर माने किछिटा लेखा. सो द डचेस ऑफ माल्फी ठीक सिया ही अछि. डचेस ऑफ माल्फी माने कण एथरे द डचेस ऑफ माल्फी इज अ लेडी हु टुक रिवेंज ओवर देयर ब्रदर्स who betrayed her and जे कि तांकर against conspiracy करथिली. Okay, so Jacobean drama also witnessed the rise of city comedies which satirized urban life, जे कि urban life को satirize कला. Okay, city comedy को नेकरी urban life को माने mock कला, माने तार faults गुड़ा सब देखेला. तापरे कोन सोशल प्रिटेंशंस केते सब सोशल प्रिटेंशंस थाई से सब देखेला एवं मोरल डिके हाउ द मोरल knowledge is degrading day by day in the Jacobean drama. It was shown. Okay, after having discussed the Jacobean drama and the Elizabethan drama, let's now have the conclusion of or the summary of the total discussion. Elizabethan drama and Jacobean drama were significant periods in English theatrical history. They produced a wealth of plays that continue to be studied, performed and celebrated for their literary and dramatic merits. So এই যে দুইটা যাক প্রকার ড্রামা এলিজাবেথান ড্রামা এবং জ্যাকোবিয়ান ড্রামা এটাକୁ ମାନେ 16th centuryରୁ ଆଜି ଯାଏଁ 21st century ହେଲା ପରେ ବି ଆଜି ଯାଏଁ ତାକୁ ପଢ଼ୁଛେ ଏବଂ ତାର ଉପରେ ଆମର ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ଆଜି ଯାଏଁ ରହିଛି ଏବଂ ଆଗକୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ରହିବ. The works of William Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe, Ben Jonson and John Webster among others were exemplify the artistic brilliance and the rich tapestry of themes and genres explored during this era. Okay, as I have already told you once or twice that these were the very important figures of Elizabethan and Jacobean period who made the literature of this age very famous. Okay, and who actually developed the genres drama in this age. Elizabethan and Jacobean drama remain essential pillars of English literature and continue to inspire and captivate audiences around the world. So Elizabethan and Jacobean drama could essential pillars thila. Okay, we should not say, we would say pillars because it is actually handling the entire English literature, because we cannot imagine English literature without William Shakespeare. Okay, and if there is no Elizabethan drama, then there is no Shakespeare, we can say. Of course, I may be wrong. You may be you may oppose me in this way, but this is just I'm saying this just for making you understand in a better way. So both the dramas of both the periods were very important in the field of English literature. So this is all that I had to tell you. I hope all of you have understood, and thank you so much for listening to me patiently for a long period of time. So if you really liked this session and if you really want to join the online classes in the BIREN'S Academy, you can join by contacting the number that I am noting down here. Hope you liked it, and let's meet in another session, and I hope you will join in the next class. Thank you so much.